welcome everybody to the Magic Beans podcast. And we are back again for episode number 165. I'm your host tonight, and my name is Shorty. And for the first time in 2 months, as we just figured out, we have three of us here tonight, with Cracker returning, as always, the stalwart of the Magic Beans podcast. How's it going?
Good, thanks, mate. How are you?
Pretty good. And we've got Chewy back. How's it going, mate?
Yeah, good. And I must say, like in our little preamble, I haven't felt an energy level like that. You know, the excitement that we had built around doing the cast tonight is something that I've not experienced before. Really brimming with it. So it is, yeah.
There's no sarcasm there at all.
No, not at all. It's a. I don't know. You okay, Shorty? Just feel a bit flat.
I'm just tired.
It's
been a busy few weeks of work.
I think the wind's just out of Shorty sails after a standard announcement this week that we'll get into. But it's it has been like a solid 2 months. Like I had a pretty hectic start to the year with work, and then there's just been like that normal circumstance that's come up, except for Cracker, the stalwart. And as you said stalwart, and I was like, Kithkin stalwart. Cracker, you are Gadok Teague. There we go. You are the Gadok Teague of this podcast.
He's way too tall to be Gadok.
I was going to say, I mean, the nickname sometimes is Big Daddy Gaddy, right? But no, that's
Wizen Sen.
Isn't there like stalwart champion? Isn't
There's plenty of
another
other
thing?
stalwarts.
Yeah, but Gadok Teague's got a beard, right?
He does. He's also the size of my bottom half of one of my legs.
Your dad is Gadok Teague. Oh my gosh!
Yeah. Oh,
how have I not
actually,
figured that out
true.
before?
Wow, that is spot on.
That's. Sorry, Reg. There we go.
I just did a Scryfall search. There are 18 stalwart cards in Magic.
There you go. Wow.
So,
I chose the one that comes up to your knee.
Who's not
even a stalwart. There you go. No. Yep. Welcome to the tangents of Chewy's brain.
Oh dear. Yep. We're in fine form tonight. So yeah. Anyway, get us back on track, Chewy, with a sponsor read. Go for it.
We have something to read? No. So the fine folk at Josh and Pat's MTG Bazaar are the official sponsor of the Magic Beans podcast and our tournament series. And we've got some events coming up and just had some events. So we'll talk about those later in the cast. But what you can do once you've finished listening to this podcast is go to jpmtgbazaar.com.au. That'll take you straight to the Josh and Pat's Facebook page. They do auctions on physical Magic cards 7 nights a week. They also do win it now lots. There are the spicy primo stuff on the weekends as well. Crazy prices, huge amounts of stuff goes up all the time. Full-time auctioneer means that the comms and the shipping are second to none on the internet. And when you do win, please tell them that the Bean sent you.
Very good. You haven't forgotten how to do that, despite the read that we don't actually have the notes.
Yeah, it's kind of just after 165 episodes. I've probably been on 140 of them. I don't know, and then all the streams and whatnot. Yeah, it's and look, I spruik Josh and Pat's in my day-to-day life. If I'm at a Magic event or whatever,
talking to people at work, it's just like, hey, go and check out Josh and Pat's.
Hey, by the way, go to jpmtgbazaar.com today.
What's Chewy doing? I was just telling a tree to buy Magic cards. Yeah, that's right.
Tell them about the premium weekend auctions.
That's right.
In the Macca's drive-through.
Yeah,
I'll have a Big Mac meal and just go to jpmtgbazaar.com.au.
I like it.
Oh dear, yes, we are.
Would you like tokens with that?
Truly
yeah, that's it.
All right. Anyway, let's get back on track. So we do have a few things to talk about tonight. The big one being the Pro Tour that we had on the weekend. So, Cracker, you and I spoke about that a little bit on the previous podcast. This was coming up. Standard, which we weren't overly excited about. Well, we weren't overly we didn't have a lot of hope for the meta game being very diverse, which we'll have a bit of a look at. But we did expect some really good matches. And I don't know if you watched any of it. Or
I caught a bit,
either Chewy, but
not a lot, but the bits I saw, really good.
I actually, I think I was telling Chris this on the weekend. I had a massive weekend of watching streams. So we had there was the Pro Tour on, so there was that stream that was running virtually all weekend. There was a Battle Spirit Saga like GP level event that was streaming all weekend at a slightly different time to the Magic one. There was Formula One on, a race in Miami that I was streaming and watching that. And then you did a stream on the Saturday night in the form of a concert, which was cool, which I was also streaming. So
yeah,
it was just watching all the streams all weekend. It was a lot of fun.
I'm picturing your desk being like the production room in a newsroom with just so many different
multiple screens. Yeah, most of it is just watching on my phone, like with my earpods in, just walking around and more listening to it than watching the stream. But yeah, it was good. But I did actually catch a decent amount of the Pro Tour stream, which was cool. Chewy, did you get to watch any?
Maybe a combined total of 30 minutes for the whole thing. So unfortunately not. How was the coverage? They got the A team assembled. I was pretty excited about the personalities that were actually and just the experience from a playing perspective that were doing the coverage. And given that we've dipped our toe into actually producing a stream to cover matches, and we've done some paper stuff, you get that sort of bit of a lens. How'd they do that? And I know you definitely look at that really, really closely. How did you find it?
Like, really good. We mentioned it for the last Pro Tour. We weren't sure what they were going to do in terms of coverage. Were they going to put a full effort in, that sort of stuff? And then we saw some behind the scenes photos of their actual production studio setup.
Yeah, that was like a full newsroom kind of deal.
Yeah, right? Like 15 monitors and a million, mixers and all,
It's like they've actually got a production company in rather than
that is what they've done.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 100%. And it definitely shows. Like, the coverage was very, very good. The only thing is that they still went with the same orientation of the playmats, like the arena style, which still just isn't quite right. Yeah, I'm not too sure about that. But everything else was top notch. I for all the stream that I watched, the longest Be Right Back screen was 2 minutes for 8 or 9 hours, however long their stream was for. 2 minutes. That's it. And it's just snappy. One thing after another, going to this, going to that. The commentators' booth setup was awesome with, the banners behind them, but then players in the background and tables and all that sort of stuff, like the actual hall, because it was being held at a Magic Con. Getting into matches really quickly. They had one little feature I saw that they added this time was in the first few turns of the game, they would have a little thing up on the overlay that said how many cards the players had kept. So, kept 6 or kept 7 or kept 5 or whatever it is, just for the first few turns. So you sort of had a bit of an idea, and just really good. Like, production value just through the roof. So hats off to them. But exactly like you said, Chewy, that's what happens when you get an actual production company to do it for you.
It wasn't that long ago we didn't have a competitive Magic scene, but that long ago either. But then when coverage did return, it was a bit average, and we were, somewhat tongue in cheek, going, "Hey, Wizards, we can do a better job." So they've obviously not listened to us specifically, but listen to the Magic community who do want to have have that experience and have access to high quality coverage at that top level play, and they've invested in it, which is great. Were their numbers all right? Like, when I looked, they had 2,000 or something.
Jumped in at one point. They had 15K.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I actually completely forgot to look at the numbers.
So 12,000. Yeah. Okay.
I don't think that was top 8. I think it was towards the end of the day. Oh, I think I was watching Reed play to try and get his winning in.
Yep.
Towards the end of the day 2. So yeah, big numbers because big names and like the pointy end of the top eight shaping up on the Sunday. It would have been our time. So yeah, it was about 15,000. So it's not like the 40K we've seen 5 years ago, but it's still pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. I did like, by having it at the Magic Con event, there's obviously a lot of people sort of getting around, all that sort of stuff, but it looked like they had the news desk, the booth for the commentators, all that sort of stuff, and then the feature matches all in an elevated position.
Oh, like on a mezzanine floor sort of thing.
And then a whole bunch of seating near there and sort of behind there with, I would assume, projectors set up because there was a whole bunch of people watching and cheering on and all that sort of stuff. So it really had that feel of a proper live event, like a sporting event type thing, and that's really cool. That's something that they haven't really shown in coverage before. Obviously they're recording it or streaming it live from site, but you don't get that feel of there's actually a crowd watching these people play and that. So yeah, did a really good job. Hats off to them. But anyway, we're not here to talk about the coverage. What did we see, Cracker, in the meta? Was there any spice?
No. I mean, I was trying to think of a clever way to say no, but the answer is just no.
Some people put like mayonnaise on something, and to some people mayonnaise is spicy, right? So, yeah.
Are you talking about me?
Yeah.
That's not fair. He puts barbecue sauce on everything.
Yeah. Tomato sauce.
Tomato sauce.
Barbecue sauce is only on select things.
Like steak. Oh my god. We need to, before this derails, we lose all of our listeners.
Can we talk about the 50,000 copies of Rakdos cards then? Should we do that instead?
Yeah.
So top deck at 18.7% is Rakdos midrange, followed by Grixis midrange, Esper Legends, Rakdos Reanimator, Grixis Reanimator, Domain Control, Mono White midrange, and 5-color ramp rounding out the top 8 decks. But just heavily black, red X decks, guys.
So Rakdos midrange, Fable of the Mirror Breaker, Sheoldred. Grixis, Fable of the Mirror Breaker, Sheoldred. Esper, Sheoldred. Rakdos, Fable of the Mirror Breaker, Sheoldred. Grixis Reanimator, Fable of the Mirror...
Hang on. They both have... The next two have both got Atraxa in them.
Sure.
That's a newish card.
Yeah, it is, but they
also play Fable and Sheoldred.
Yeah. Exactly. So...
Yeah, if you look at the metagame breakdown, yeah, like 18.7% for Rakdos midrange, but you've got Rakdos midrange and Rakdos Reanimator, which are virtually the same deck, just the Reanimator one's playing some Breach the Multiverse and a couple of Chandras.
Cruelty of Gix and...
Yeah, and then there's Rakdos Breach, which I don't really understand how that's different to Rakdos Reanimator, because they're doing the same thing, but if you total all of that up, you're up like over 30% just in Rakdos. And then you've got Grixis at 15.5% and Grixis Reanimator at 7%. So there's another 20-odd%. So you're at over 50% of the field is either Rakdos or Grixis decks that are pretty much the same.
Yeah, what a grind fest.
Yeah.
Like the percentage, they you're right. It's a bit of hyperbole to say they're the same, but there's so many play patterns and turn sequences of every deck you've just mentioned that are the same. And it's just, they get to a point in the game of turn 5, and that's where they start going in a different direction. But everything up until then, they're playing
Blood Tithe Harvester, into Fable of the Mirror Breaker, into Cut Down, into Sheoldred.
Exactly.
GGs.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just whether they're going Invoke Despair or trying to cheat in
Cruelty of Gix.
Yeah. So it's that's not a lot of diversity, is it? That's a bit of
what'll fix that diversity?
Oh yeah.
The rotation. Yeah.
We'll get into that. Yeah. All right. Anyway, so
bannings?
What did we so in the top 8 we had 4 Rakdos midrange, the Rakdos Reanimator, 5-color ramp, Azorius Soldiers, all of midrange. Yeah, not a very diverse meta, but who took it down, Cracker?
Nathan Stoyer, who is probably just the best player in the world at the moment, I think.
He is the current reigning world champion.
Mm-hmm.
So he won the world championship. Yep. Then he top 8'd the last PT, playing Lotus Field, I believe, in Pioneer, and now won this PT. So
that's a hell of a run, man.
That's a resume.
That's Hall of Fame level.
It is
territory.
Always
pretty soon.
The unofficial cut to make Hall of Fame is 3 top 8s, right? So is 2 top 8s, including a win and being world championship, is probably harder than 3 top 8s.
Yeah, you need one more.
Sure, Cracker.
Yeah.
Not that I don't even know if they're actually putting new people into the Hall of Fame.
Well, no one knows. Well, maybe.
Who knows? Reed Duke was the last inductee, but But I'm just saying, how good his run has been, and how ahead of the game and on fire he has been. like to put that resume together in like a year, versus some people do that. You know, some people take their whole career to get into the Hall of Fame, and I mean, the 99.99% of the rest of us never get there, but it's incredible. Like, that's a massive achievement, and hats off to them. And we rag on Standard, a little bit, and Wizards in general, but I want to take none of the luster off that achievement, because that is, incredible. Like, good on him. Hats off.
Yeah, absolutely. So there seemed to be, from the coverage that I watched and then looking at the top deck lists, 2 cards from March of the Machine that really sort of had a bit of a breakout and became the new spice, which is Chandra, Hope's Beacon, and Breach the Multiverse, which, did we speak about this on the previous podcast?
Yep.
Yeah.
You and I talked a bit about Breach.
Yeah.
Because it's bananas.
Well, I mean, they're both in the colours of the most popular colours, and like playing Chandra, the static ability, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, copy it. You can choose new targets for the copy, and it triggers once a turn. Turns out playing Chandra and then playing Invoke Despair is pretty gross.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely disgusting.
Yep.
Also, the
Chandra
plus
into Breach.
Yeah, but the +2 on Chandra, it makes 2 mana as well. So you play Chandra on 6, and then you've got your mana for Breach straight away. So next turn, pretty awesome.
Yeah, pretty nuts. So yeah, that was pretty cool, and yeah, definitely led to some really interesting games of like milling people, exiling things out of their graveyards, and all that sort of stuff, and trying to balance the graveyard as another resource and those sorts of things. So yeah, it was quite interesting. It added a little bit of excitement to the weekend, and it was almost one of those like, well, you've currently got nothing in your graveyard, but we're both going to mill 10 cards, and let's see what we get.
That's a lot of cards.
Yeah,
it really is
quite a few. Yep.
And then you flip an Atali, and then you get to take the next 2 cards off it. Like, I've seen people go from like actual 0 board state to like 4 massive permanents. Like 2 planeswalkers and 2 creatures, like a Tali and a Shieldred or something like that, and a Chandra and Wandering Emperor. So it's like, oh, this is good, clean magic.
It's modern level stuff right there. I mean, modern probably does it a couple of turns earlier, but that sort of raw power level type stuff, it's big and it's swingy, and it's a bit gross.
Yeah, and there's no control deck to keep it in check.
Well, you can't have a control deck in modern Magic because everything is a 2-for-1. So you can't counterspell, trade 1-for-1 Wrath, play Finisher that traditional control deck way, because there's too much value in every single card ever printed since, I don't know, the last 8 years or something. So
yeah. No, it's true. And the thing is, you can't afford to sit around holding up counter magic.
No, you just
have to keep playing to the board. And yeah. It's an interesting challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if they have a plan to, balance that out, to curve it down and stuff. Probably
they're going to put Ragavan into Standard.
Yeah. Let's just power Standard right up.
Yeah.
Yeah, another card that was sort of making its way into the Rakdos decks was Light Up the Night, which is actually a card that I think both you and I have played, Chewy, and now Jessica I take turns.
Yeah.
We were playing, but it's a card from Midnight Hunt. It's Fireball, basically, so it's a X and a red. Light Up the Night deals X damage to any target. It deals X +1 damage instead if that target is a creature or planeswalker, and then you can flash it back for 3 and a red and remove X loyalty counters from among planeswalkers you control, and X can't be 0. So, yeah, from what I've been hearing, a lot of people were saying that you can basically win out of nowhere. You can just play slow, grindy, mid-range, kill a couple of your dudes, gum up the board, just sculpt your hand with your blood tokens and all that sort of stuff. And then eventually it's just like, play a Chandra, cast a Light Up the Night, copied with Chandra, so, burn you for 6, and then just untap, and if you want, you can just do the same thing again. But, yeah, you could sort of win from, 10, like your opponent on 10, and just cast a Light Up the Night and copy it for 5, and you just win out of nowhere sort of thing. So
yeah, and Chandra's plus ability adds mana, which adds more damage, and then gives you an extra loyalty counter for the flashback. It all lines up nicely, doesn't it?
Yep. And she's got a million loyalty counters that you can take off of her to flash back, and yeah.
When you do that, is Chandra dead so the static doesn't trigger?
If you took all of the counters off,
Yeah.
it
a
would,
cost to
because
cast
it's part
a spell.
of the cost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But if you leave, like if you've
One.
played Chandra, it's got 5 loyalty, you plus it the first turn, so it's got 7, and you cast Light Up the Night for 6 or whatever. Yeah, and then flash it back and then just remove 6 counters again. It's a lot. I mean, you can plus it and then plus it the next turn, so it goes to 9, and then take 8 counters off of it and use the 2 mana that you made to pay for the part of the 4. So it's it's pretty gross.
True. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you got treasure tokens lying around
I didn't
your
see
goblins.
that. That's yeah.
Yep. Any, like, of the top 8 lists, any other lists that were, piqued your interest, a little bit spicy?
I like the 5 colour.
Yeah.
Yeah. Autumn Bird Chet had Orzhov, but it's literally just mono white with 2 Breach the Multiverse and a couple of sideboard cards, so we've seen that before. The 5 colour one, Chewy, what was that one?
It is the David Olsen 5 colour ramp. So 2 Atali, 4 Archangel of Wrath, 4 Topiary Stomper, 4 Atraxa, 4 Invasion of Zendikar, 2 Sunfall, 4 Herd Migration, some Bankbusters, Ossification, and Leyline Binding as the removal. So ramping into Atraxa and Atali with Archangel of Wrath as a nice sort of mid-range thing to hit, to, get some damage and having a good threat. And yeah, Atraxa and Atali at the top are pretty sweet. And Topiary Stomper, Invasion of Zendikar, decent ramp spells for standard power level. And Herd Migration, lets you find land to keep hitting your drops, as well as being a kind of alternate win condition as well. You just make, 11 3/3s or something. So yeah, the deck is pretty cool. It's good to see a deck like that making top 8. And I'm looking through, and there are no Fable of the Mirror Breakers or Sheldreds or Invoke Despairs or anything. There's 4 Atraxa, sure, but it's
There's Bankbusters.
Yeah. Bankbusters.
Which is the other card that people are pretty sick of, I think.
Yeah. But it's still it's a point of difference and something a bit cool. I really like the Archangel of Wrath as an addition. I think it's a really good card in this style of deck where because the ramp's slower in standard, and you're playing 3 mana 4/4s that can't block and for a turn or two. The Archangel of Wrath is great. And I've been playing the Stomper and the Invasion of Zendikar in my sort of brews in standard. And turn 3 Stomper, turn 4 Invasion, play a land. Like you're attacking with your Stomper on turn 4. You got 7 land in play on turn 4. So, and then if your opponent doesn't see that coming, they might attack past your 4/4. So then you flip the battle and you've got 2 4/4s and life's good. That also taps for mana. So yeah, it's a cool play pattern in and of itself. So I like that deck. It's something I could see myself playing.
Yeah, I just want to congratulate David on playing green, the most unplayable colour in Magic. At the moment, anyway.
12 months ago, 18 months ago, it was just
green
everywhere,
but just
right?
it is just the worst colour at the moment. Like, it's literally the only deck.
Yep. With green in it.
With forests in it.
Yep.
I particularly like the 4 copies of Tyrannarix Rex.
In the board? Yeah, it's great.
In the board. Good work.
Vanquish the Horde in the board as well, which is pretty cool. And I really like, actually, it's something that I forgot was actually in standard, is Temporary Lockdown. And he's only got 1 copy, but when you look at all of the blood tokens, the treasures, the goblins, the bankbusters, all of these little permanents that are 2 mana or less, Temporary Lockdown's pretty good. So,
can I say that whenever I fired up Arena to play that tokens deck, my opponent's always had it.
Every time?
Every time. I'm out there trying to go wide, making a bunch of little 1/1s off my 3rd path Iconoclast. It's just like, Temporary Lockdown.
Yeah, I haven't seen that card for a year. Funny that you've got that. Yeah.
Funny that you've got that in best of 1.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
Yeah.
Guess I lose.
Anyway. It's also worth noting that the 4 Rakdos mid-range players in the top 8 were all from the same team. So Team Handshake is one of the testing teams, and I'm not sure how many people are on the team in total, but 4 players from the same team on the same deck in the top 8 means whatever they did, they figured it out. And
probably listened to Nathan Struer and just played
Yeah.
what he told him to play.
Yeah, it comes down to those little, 1 of this card, 2 of this card, finding something like Light Up the Night as a card to sort of take you over the top of the other decks and things like that it's quite interesting.
Different sideboard strategies and stuff probably come into it as well. But yeah, that's 4 players in the same team in that level in the top 8 is huge. That's like Team Channel Fireball back in the day level stuff. You don't see that very often at all.
No. So we've mentioned it a couple of times that Wizards has figured out how to solve the problem of this boring mid-range soup standard, which I don't know why they did this, but they announced this like during the PT. Like as part of the coverage of PT, they had sort of had this announcement and then released the article and that sort of thing, like while the standard tournament is happening and we're seeing not boring, but the same decks over and over mid-range soup, they came up with this fantastic plan of what they're going to do, which is what, Cracker? How are they saving standard?
Well, they realised that everyone was having so much fun that we should just play with the cards for another year. So they are changing rotation so that we do not have rotation upcoming in September this year. We're just skipping it. And the next standard rotation is going to be in September of 2024, which means we go from 9 set standard to 12. We're going to have 12 set standard, which is insane.
It just makes no sense.
Every axis I can think of, except for I want to play my $60 Sheldreds for longer.
Yeah. So they did give us some reasons. Do you want to go through? So this is an article came out from Aaron Forsyth and Billy Jensen, who's Huey Jensen. What's their logic in this, Cracker?
I mean, that's literally part of it. Their reasoning is that they want to give the standard cards more longevity. They're saying that they keep hearing complaints that people want to play with cards for longer, and as standard's the only rotating format, this is the only way that they can do that, which doesn't quite make sense. But anyway, they want to allow mechanics and archetypes to be more effectively built over time. So their examples were interesting, as in like green-white infect and blue-white soldiers being the 2 archetypes that they decided to push as being less mid-range. I don't know when you're going to do toxic again, but that's a whole nother thing. And that's it. That's the thing. That's the thing. They're saying that those are the main reasons. So they're trying to encourage standard by pushing it in the Pro Tour, right? And saying, putting it back on the center stage again, which it obviously wasn't for a while in terms of paper tournaments.
The next PT is Modern, I think.
And the one before that was
I think the next one's Pioneer, the one after that is Modern.
Listen.
Anyway,
and the previous one was Pioneer.
I'm just reading the announcement, mate. I don't know.
No, we're shooting the messenger, Cracker.
Yeah, where do we start? Where do we start here with the? Are we pulling holes in their logic, or are we just saying they're dumb? Like, are we actually going to?
It says here, we believe this will give Standard more stability, more vitality, and strengthen it for local game stores.
So
how?
The thing, and I've been listening to a few other people talk about this and kind of getting some other perspectives, because I wanted to make sure that I wasn't just flying off the handle and being completely insane. Turns out I'm not.
Or everybody else is as well. No, but
turns out that's not it either. Yeah, it's interesting that the thing that I think has happened is that standard plays down in stores, right? Like, and this harks back to a tweet that Aaron Forsyth, one of the chief designers and head guys over at Magic, said, standard players dried up in many stores. I have my own list of reasons, but I'd love to hear why you think that has happened. And I heard a couple of people say, yeah, it's because you've pushed Commander so insanely hard for the last few years that why would you bother playing standard anymore? So let's have a look at Aftermath, right? The set that they've just dropped with 50 new cards or 75 new cards, whatever it is. Tell me, how many of those are Legends, boys?
Like all of them?
I think it's like 80%.
Yeah. And
So where else do you evaluate
attacking
those?
legendary onto things that didn't necessarily need to be legendary. And we've got an Esper Legends deck in that for that reason. They have also printed cards that have led to obnoxious play patterns, and we talk, Blood Tithe Harvester all the way up to the Black Sorcery, right? Why would I want to go and do that on my Friday night, right? Like, it's not a fun play experience. So you've got this really supported format that has cards in every set, from Legends to Big Splashy Sorceries, and the current set's got those the Alt Art Legends, and the previous set had the old frame artifacts. That's targeted at Commander players right there. And so you're feeding one, the other one's on this complete famine, and they're printing cards that are leading to a negative play experience, and then going, hey guys, why aren't you playing it? Like, it is the most tone deaf, uninsightful comment announcement decision that they've made in a hot minute, I gotta tell you, because it's just, they're not looking at themselves and what they're doing. They're effectively blaming their consumers and trying to whack a band-aid on it to say, oh, will this work? Like, and just doing the same thing effectively, just like, oh, standards down, let me punish you some more. Like, it just, I don't know. So rocks in their head.
Kind of. I mean, I think what they're obviously trying to do something without having to invest. So the change to what they have to do is just straight zero, right? There's no change. There's potentially some issues around supply chain and whether keeping cards in standard for another 12 months. Do they have enough product to do that? They might have to go and
pick some up from the tip, or in a warehouse they've forgotten about.
Maybe.
Yep.
So that aside, there's no impact to Wizards in their bottom line, right? Like, it doesn't impact anything. And like, it sucks that we have to say this all the time, but like, everything is to do with making them more money. That's just kind of, they're a business, and that's fine. That's how they have to operate. But I just don't know who they think this gets reinvigorated by standard.
Yeah. So
by increasing it by 12 months. So if I'm already not enjoying the format.
Yeah. Like, instead of reinvigorating it and getting me to buy new cards when a new set comes out to play standard, I'm going, why would I play standard? It doesn't matter what comes out in the new set. Or I'll have a look at the new set and go, okay, none of that's better than Sheoldred and Invoke Despair. I'm not going to buy it, right? So they're actually, like, to your point, that's a business decision. This is actually going to negatively impact their business, because people aren't going to want to buy the new standard sets because standard sucks and they're not going to want to invest in it.
Kind of. It means that you have a longer window to continue buying the standard cards. So as, I guess as they're saying, if in the next set, let's say in Eldraine, right, we saw a bunch of knight synergies. Maybe this time they make them soldiers, and then the blue-white soldiers deck becomes a thing. As their example goes. Seems unlikely, but hey, it could be a thing. Then people have to go back and rebuy all of the cards from the previous sets rather than just the brand new ones. So they are increasing the purchasing life cycle by 50%, right? By increasing it by that long. So you haven't shortened the window of when people will need to buy the new cards. You've just lengthened how long they'll need to buy the old cards for.
Yeah, which is a good point. And if they are planning on having standard as a PT format, every third PT over the next few years, well, then that quite drastically increases how much people are going to have to buy standard cards. And yeah, if they don't just have to buy from the most current sets, so they have to buy from
all
3 years worth of sets.
Only works though. Like, your point's a good one, Cracker, but where I disagree with you is that only works if people want to play the.
Yeah, which not everyone's going to, but anyone who wants to be playing at the Pro Tour has to, because they've now locked their.
Their example is F&M though, right? They're not saying
that's
numbers.
Yeah, that's where the disconnect is.
Yeah.
You seem confused, Chewy. We're not defending the position. I'm just saying this is how I think that maybe they've reached the position. I don't think that it's a good one. Like I said, like right from the top, I don't know who they get back into standard by making this choice. And That's the problem they've had, is that they've pushed players out, or players have fallen off because there was no reason to play.
Well, they're just going to play Commander because that's what's happening in their store now.
Exactly.
Right?
And so what part of this now makes the Commander players attracted to come back to Standard when they can just take the Legends they want to play and play it in their favourite format anyway?
Exactly. And so I agree. So I think, they've been a bit daft here. The other thing about the announcement that jumped out at me is, one of their reasonings is to make their Standard cards more, have more play out of your Standard cards. So we've got Pioneer and Explorer on the Arena. Yeah. That is what that format was sold as, or those formats were sold as, right? You can come play your old Standard cards, and, then they did Alchemy, which kind of screwed the whole thing over for Historic. And then they go, okay, well, now we need Explorer. So they had to invent a whole nother format. So they're just being reactive rather than actually having a little bit of like self-reflection and, where's their analytics? Where's their quality assurance? Where's their, I don't know. Like they're so focused on chasing the dollar. They aren't focused on the core of the business. Like if you focus on your customers, the dollar will look after itself rather than chasing the dollar and disenfranchising people or building something that they don't want. So it just, I don't know. It's the leadership at WotC at the moment, obviously the world what the world's gone through over the last few years, they're trying to look after their investors and their stakeholders and ultimately probably their staff. And they're probably coming at this from a completely good place. I'm not accusing them of being sinister, but I don't think it's come from a very smart place at all. Like it's insane. Like it
just doesn't make steps to achieving their stated goals. That's the thing that gets me, right? Like
their actions don't align with what they've stated their goals are. Yes, you're right.
Yeah. So just on that, in the article, they do say, we need to make a more public commitment to standard and competitive tabletop Magic. As such, we'll be rolling out multifaceted plans over the coming months to do so. Today is step one, and then they go into standard rotation every 3 years. So it sounds like they have a plan, to go with trying to get standard as a more played format at F&Ms or at local stores and whatever. And like I remember when we used to play at like Card Heaven all the time, Chewy, there was like the player rewards cards and things like that. It was, you go and you play F&Ms and you get these sweet promos that you get from playing F&Ms.
Yeah, you get a thing in the mail and you get like a textless damnation or something.
Encrypted commands and whatever. Yeah, there was awesome stuff. But maybe there's things like that coming because exactly like you guys have been saying, what they've announced at the moment, I don't think incentivizes anybody to go, yep, sweet, I want to get back to my local game store and play more of the same stuff I've been playing. So hopefully there is more coming to that will incentivize stores to be pushing standard more, to run more standard events, and then incentivize players to get back to those stores to play those standard events. But at the moment, we don't have those details, and with the quality of announcements that Wizards do and just always going in the wrong direction, those announcements will come out and it'll be like, why the hell would you do it that way? That's just really dumb, like and I don't want to go.
Wizards made an announcement that they're changing the rotation of standard, but still somehow made it a way to make it an announcement of a future announcement.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
That's a skill. Yep. That is a skill.
Definitely.
If it were up to you, Shorty, so you've spent a lot of time thinking about running our events, right? And obviously running F&M and Pro Tours and things is very different, but you're probably more qualified than your average Magic punter to comment on this. So really interested to get your thoughts. If they called you up tomorrow, and you didn't hang up the phone instantly at hearing Mark Rosewater's voice, because I know, it's not exactly something that you would choose to fall asleep to.
If the Pinkertons came knocking at my door. Yeah,
yeah, that's right. Yeah. And said, righto, Shorty.
Design us a system.
you don't like how we're doing it. We're giving you free reign. How do you fix it? Standard is yours to manage. What are you doing?
So my biggest issue with this 3-year system is we've seen it before and we've seen it at the moment. As you go from 5-set standard to 6 to 7 to 8 to 9, whatever, and then now we're going to go up to 12, what ends up happening is that all the decks just become the same because, yes, they've got their little archetypes, their, green, white, infect and Azorius soldiers and things like that come in their individual sets. But as you get a bigger and bigger card pool and better mana bases that come with that, with almost every set coming out with some sort of dual land or tri-land or whatever, you just end up with decks that just take all the best cards and put them together, and then there's your deck. And
it's not about the synergies from an individual set.
Yep. And so as we get to bigger sets, that's going to be worse and worse. And
do you think that's
my biggest issue?
Moving away from blocks, so like sidebar for a second, moving away from blocks to single sets has definitely magnified that, hasn't it? Because they're more shallow. The synergies they've got one set rather than three.
Yeah, the blocks definitely had those synergies that transferred over, but I don't think they ever did the blocks quite right. Like there wasn't. Yes, they were sort of related, but you still had like different mechanics in each set from those blocks, and yeah, it was a bit weird. I don't know.
I take offense to that. Megamorph is totally different to Morph.
Yes.
Hang on, they did some really good things, like affinity for artifacts. That was right.
Yeah. Anyway, back to the original question. So yeah, my issue with the ever getting bigger standard is that it's going to be just soup, like just the mid-range soups that we've currently got, and it's going to be that for a long time. And also, I don't think they actually announced what happens when we do get rotation. They do, yeah. So Innistrad, so the 2 Innistrad sets, Kamigawa, Streets Capenna, rotate out. So the sets that would have rotated out this year just rotate out next year. So we're permanently going to have minimum 8 or 9 set standard, I think.
Yep.
Which is bad. Anyway,
historically
I still haven't answered the question.
It's at the worst, yeah. So what would you do?
My idea is, and I've been saying this for years, and I don't know if it would work, but this is the way I think of it: is have 2 years worth of sets, but it is a permanent rotation. So as a new set comes in, the old set from the tail end drops off, and then the next set comes out. The set that's now on the tail end, that drops off. So you're getting small rotations every 3 or 4 months whenever the sets come out, but that's it. So your sets still stay in standard for 2 years. So you can still play with your cards for a really long time. You don't have that, all of a sudden I've got 4 sets that are now no longer legal in standard. It's only ever 1 set at a time. So it's a drip. You're only losing a small card pool.
I really like that, Shorty, but with what they've said with cards being, people want to invest in their $60 Sheoldreds and then keep them, do you think your model would work on a 3-year rotation?
Yeah, like it doesn't matter how long you pick it for.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still, if it, like going to 3 years means you still have that issue of the big card pool. And so you're just going to end up with the soup of really powerful cards again.
Yeah.
2 years has shown to be a good amount. But yeah, you're always getting that little bit of a refreshment with a new set and you're basically swapping one set for another set. So 2, like a changeover of 2. But you don't have that big, all of a sudden, I'm losing heaps of my cards. All these cards that I've invested in are now worth nothing. You know that you're going to have each set for 2 years, whereas at the moment it's some of my cards I will have for 2 years, but some of my cards I'll only have for like just over 12 months because it depends on where they come out in that cycle before you hit rotation. Mm-hmm. And you've just got that constant changeover without it being a drastic thing. So that's how I would do it. That seems more practical to me. It's also a lot easier to know what's in standard and what's not.
I think that's a really valid point. I was going to comment on that.
Set, cool. Yeah. And then the oldest set, that's gone. And then new set, yeah, and then the old set's gone. So that's how I would like to do it. Like I said, I'm not a game designer. I don't know if that would work, but that's my thoughts.
So one thing that you mentioned, and I kind of disagree with a little bit, is about mana bases.
Yep.
I think the better the mana bases get, the more chance you have of playing the extremes. So at the moment, you can't really play like Boros or Jeskai because you don't have an untapped dual land for either of those colours. So it forces you, and this has always kind of been the case where we were talking about Simic a few years ago being the best because it had super powerful cards, but it also had the best mana. And Rakdos right now has also got the best mana. Right?
Isn't that
And
just
it's got
poor
the-
game design though? If they are weighting things in one direction and not feeding the other sides of the color pie?
Potentially, but in terms of like what they're doing now is assuming they continue to feed mana bases the way that they are, where it's slightly unbalanced one way or another, or even if it's not and it ends up all being evenly balanced, it does give you opportunity to play archetypes that are currently not viable because the mana isn't supportive.
Yeah, the issue is that if you're adding a 4 extra sets of rare lands to the mana bases that we already have, you end up with too good of mana, and then you can just play whatever you want. Like we saw that in Dragons Kamigawa.
Fetchland's really exacerbated
Yeah,
that problem.
we saw it in
Fetch
cards,
shops,
yeah.
if that's
Fetches
an
and
outlier.
shops.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
But
that's
I
an
agree,
example
but
where you've got really good mana.
It gives you a chance. Is the only thought I can think of. I'm trying to look at like what upside there is. The other thing I think that if you want to make a difference, Chewy, if you're going to ask me the question, bring the cost of standard down. Decks are $400. That is untenable. Even for like a 3-year cycle, that's an insane investment.
So
people
does
have to
this
make.
achieve that, or does it make it more expensive?
That makes it worse.
Yeah. I think it makes it worse because all of a sudden...
Yeah, no, I'm saying, but if you want to fix standard,
Yeah.
that's the way you do it, is you have to bring the cost of decks down. If decks are $100, that's a reasonable amount of money, I think, for a lot of people.
Do you
to
know
be
what
able to
brings
play
the cost down?
Proxies?
Shorter rotations.
Oh, yeah.
It does, because
Oh,
it's
that
like,
too. No,
I'm not going to
100%.
spend $60 on a Sheoldred because I'm only going to play it for a certain amount of time. Now it's 3 years. Now Sheoldred's going to hold its value longer. Like
It actually potentially goes up in value.
Yes,
because
yeah.
if you're getting towards the end of that 3-year cycle, it's like, well, people stopped opening this card and those packs 2 years
But
ago.
they still want to play it because there's a PTQ coming up.
Exactly.
I'm going to charge $80 for them, clear them out,
Yep.
and I'm winning. So after I've played with it for 2.5 years.
You know what else brings the cost of standard down? Worse cards.
Yes. Yep.
Because everything...
cards that aren't commander playable.
Commander playable, Pioneer playable, Modern playable, right? Like, we have so many cards in the standard pool now that reach back so far, that just means they get gobbled up by everybody, because why wouldn't you?
Drives
you want
the
to
price
play...
up.
Rakdos midrange in Pioneer is almost card for card, the same as in standard, except you pick up a couple of extra lands.
Yeah, you get blood
Thoughts,
fruits.
Lisa?
Seriously, it's like 60 of the 75 are the same.
Yeah.
It's insane. So I think that obviously no one wants weakened standard, like low power level formats can be boring. But if that's the goal, then it's tricky because you have to have some cards that are particularly good, and then
Yeah,
your
but that's
prices
also
are always
a
driven
long-term
towards
goal
those.
as well, though, because it's just like, okay, we can print worse cards, but that means we're stuck with these cards for 3 years, so no one's going to play the worst cards for 3 years. So
The sets
yeah.
don't
I didn't
sell.
say you could do all these things in conjunction.
No, I agree with you that it's a strat and something that they should absolutely do. They should curb the power level. Remember when we went from Eldraine to Kaldheim and we were like, oh, these cards suck, and until they didn't, until we got like,
Until all the Eldraine cards got banned.
yeah, and there were powerful cards out of that set as well with the Time Walk card and stuff. But it's when you've got a big set like that, and then you like a big standard, 12 sets. If you release a lower powered set, it does nothing. It doesn't shake up the format like a new set should. If in Shorty's model with, if something dropped off, yes, it would have more of an impact, but the cards dropping off would have more of an impact than the cards coming in. So there's just, at every time you discuss this model, the more we think about it, the more flaws we find in their plan.
Yeah, because the only other way to manage it, if you're going to do it for this long, is bannings.
Yep. That was the next point.
But
Yeah,
they
so
literally
bannings-
talk about, like the article says that, they want to get more stability, vitality, and strengthen it for local game stores. Bannings do the opposite of all of those things.
Yeah.
Yes, you're not wrong, but they'll also become necessary.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I've heard a lot of people saying, all right, they've done this announcement, so when's the announcement that Fable of the Mirror Breaker is banned? Because That's what it's going to take. Like, yeah, they're going to need to, if they're going to have a larger card pool. I mean, the other thing is, have they even designed these sets over the last 2 years to be in standard with the sets for the next year? Probably not.
Yeah, that's
Given
huge.
they tweeted about this in November,
Yeah.
I'm going to go with no.
Yeah, so they're going to have to ban stuff, but yeah, exactly like you said, Chewy, that has the opposite effect. That makes people go, well, okay, well, why would I want to invest in this format even more if you're just going to go and ban all the stuff? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Anyway.
Strange, very, very strange. The other thing that came out with this announcement is they're still rotating Alchemy in September this year because reasons. You know, Alchemy was meant to be
It's fixed standard. Mate. That's what they're doing. They've fixed it by saying we're going to make it 3 years, but the fixed standard's still 2. So that's clearly the superior version of the format.
I don't understand. Like, yeah, it makes no sense at all. But anyway, it is what it is. So yeah, they do say like they had another couple of paragraphs towards the end of the article about, you know, I'll just read it out. Our attention toward improving the standard experience won't be ending here. To help ensure standard thrives at local game stores, we'll be rolling out a multi-step plan to support and revitalise standard tabletop play. So sort of what we were saying before. While later steps are still in the planning stages, we felt it was important to share this change as early as possible once our plans around rotation were locked into place. So they're still figuring it out, what they're going to do. I'm assuming, though, they sort of wanted to put this out there, hear what the feedback is. In classic Wizard style, we'll probably get an announcement in 2 weeks saying, oh, we've changed our mind, we're going to stick with rotation this
We're actually going to accelerate it to yearly rotations like we tried 5 years ago.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago. It was, I think they brought it down to like 18 months. So it was going to be rotation. But
You'd think they'd learn, right? So, like, I look after some software, and there are consumers of my software being, you know, patients. And when we have to make significant design decisions, we actually bring in consumers and they consult with us and they help us make decisions. And the reason that we do that is if we make a decision and then have to undo it and make a new decision, that is so much harder than just making the right decision in the first. It might take us longer to arrive at the right decision, but it's still faster than implementing, undoing, redesigning, and then all of the issues and change management and retraining that comes with that. So, like, why don't they, like, I don't know, ask some of the people that were at the Pro Tour or, you know, the last Pro Tour, right? When they were thinking about this, they'll be like, hey, we're thinking about this. What do you guys reckon? And they can say, no, that's a stupid idea. Let me tell you why. And then go, okay, we'll think of something else, right? Like, it's just, they make these off-the-cuff decisions and then they blow up in their face and then they have to, like, redesign them. It just, so many inefficiencies in what they do. It blows my mind. It blows my mind that they make $1 billion. Goodness me. Commander made $1 billion.
It is literally Commander that's making the billions of dollars.
Because they've got the rules committee who liaise with them. Yeah. Wow. If only that was like transportable. If only they had like this group of invested players that really understood the game and were representatives of the community. I don't know, like pros?
Yep.
Anyway.
I don't know if you're aware, Chewy, but there's no such thing as pros anymore. But speaking of Commander...
What are you talking about, Commander, Cracker?
Well, we played Commander.
Did we?
On Monday night. We did. We sat down and we
right,
played we streamed some paper Commander games.
Well, I know we started the stream and there were 3 of us on the stream.
All right, yeah.
And somebody else disappeared.
Listen, I don't know what happened.
You found a pretty good picture of him on short notice, got to say, as a little fill-in. But, yeah, that was that classic, everybody jump on. We were all there for like 40 minutes, tweaking everything. Everybody's, like, camera was sharp. Everybody's audio was good. Everyone knew what was happening. And then, literally, Shorty starts the stream. We're going live in a couple of minutes, and Cracker's whole setup just
website.
dies.
No, it wasn't. It was just the OBS Ninja that we streamed to just froze on me. That was it.
Right.
Just that one web page just died, and reloading it didn't do anything, and so I had to reboot to get it back. But we got there, and importantly, even though I joined last, I finished first.
Nice.
Well, finished last.
Finished last.
That's how it goes in Commander. You were the last person
Well,
eliminated.
I won.
You were not eliminated.
Yeah.
Is
Nice.
the,
It was that Rakdos Charm play. Whew.
Oh yeah.
I was not eliminated, correct.
Yeah.
That Rakdos charm off the top was
Oh yeah.
that was pretty fantastic.
Yep.
That was great. So the decks were various precons from different sets provided by Josh and Pats, and we gave them away on the stream as well, which is cool. So we got to have a lot of fun, play those decks, and then people got them. So thank you, Josh and Pat's MTG Bazaar, for that support. That was super fun.
Yep. So the VOD is still up on Twitch. Otherwise, I cut out some of the fluff at the start and the end and put it up on YouTube. So you can jump onto YouTube and watch it on there. And hopefully we'll do this sort of thing again, in the next few months. Pat tends to send me some Commander decks with when they come out for all the different sets. So if we get another 4 together, we'll do the same thing, because it was a lot of fun and people seem to enjoy it. So we will definitely do it again. Speaking of things that people enjoy, our leagues, again, thanks to Josh and Pat's MTG Bazaar. So we have our Explorer League kicking off finally. We've had a big gap between our last league finishing and this league starting. So time to get another one going. We've listened to some feedback from the last league and come up with a new structure, or similar structure, but a little bit different. So we know with our leagues, we're trying to cater to a bunch of different people, people from all around the world, people who can play Magic all the time, people who can barely find the time to play Magic, whatever. So it is extremely hard to find a system that works and is going to make everybody happy. So everything that we're doing is just a massive compromise to find some sort of middle ground that works for the majority. So we tried that with the last league with just the one group. We're tinkering with it for now. We'll go with this structure and then we'll take feedback from this one and try with the next one. So what we're doing now, we now have 3 stages. So stage 1, we're going to split everyone into 2 groups. So we generally get about 40 people per league, 40 to 50. So we should have around 20 players per group. We're going to do the usual round robin and play that over 5 weeks. So the round robin suits people really well that can, play at different times, especially people from overseas. So we'll allow plenty of time to play that. And by only having 20 people in your group, you're not in that situation where you need to play 35 matches just to have any sort of chance. And then we're going to take the top 10 players from each of those groups and progress them through to stage 2. So if we've got 20, if we've got 30 players in a group, doesn't really matter. We're just going to take the top 10 from each group, put them through into stage 2. Stage 2 is going to be a little bit different. This is something that I've been wanting to try for a while, and I don't know if this is going to work properly, but we'll try it. So we're going to have 20 players, and they're going to play 6 rounds of Swiss. So we're going to play it over the period of 3 to 4 weeks, which means we'll post up the pairings for round 1. Here you go, everyone. 20 players. Here's your round 1 pairings. And we'll just be pushing people to play their matches, within 3 or 4 days type thing. Everyone plays their matches. We can then pair round 2, and then we do the same thing. So we'll see how that goes. It may not work. We'll have rules around if people don't play their matches in time, that sort of stuff, so it doesn't hold everyone up. But I quite like the idea of it being a little bit more like a traditional Magic tournament with Swiss rounds, because then we're going to cut to a top 8. So we'll play 6 rounds of Swiss. That should give us a pretty clear top 8 cut, and we'll take those top 8 players, and then we'll do the same single elimination finals that we have for the previous league. Hopefully we'll get some recordings, we'll get a video put together, or we'll do some on the stream and all that sort of thing as we did for the last one. And and then crown the winner of that, and they get to go straight through to the Envy. So a little bit different, but adding in that more traditional Magic tournament style with some Swiss rounds cutting to a top 8, which people who've played paper Magic for years and years, like those of us here on the podcast, are a little bit more used to. So I'm looking forward to this. I'm assuming Cracker and Chewy, you guys are also looking forward to this. You're both registered, so...
I was the first person to register this time, mate.
Jeez.
I'm
quicker
keen.
than me, and I did the post.
I know. I'm excited. I think it'll be fun to jam some Explorer. So, it'll be cool.
Yeah, I think it's good, and the chasing of the players for the Swiss portion, we've got a brilliant team of amazing mods that'll help us in that. So it's doing this is much more achievable now that we've got that structure in place. So the mods will be grumpy if you haven't played your matches, so they'll come after you. I think it's really, really cool. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to playing some Explorer as well. Got some spicy brews on the boil. So,
nice.
I I think it's going to be great. And, it's free to enter. There is hundreds of dollars worth of cash and prizes, all thanks to Josh and Pat's. But also, there's that seat at the table for the Envy at the end of the year, which, is huge amounts of value in and of itself.
Absolutely. So, jump onto the Discord. If you're not in the Discord already, you should be. The link is always in the show notes, so come and jump in there. There's a registration channel. You can find the post in there. It's got the details, the prize breakdown, all that sort of thing. And then all you got to do is hit the little green tick, and that's it. You're registered. And we'll be kicking that off on the 22nd of May, so that is Monday week. But similar to the last league, the group stage, if you do, miss the initial cutoff, we can just throw you in there, and it's not too bad. So you do have a few weeks grace, but ideally you're in there right from the start and you get cracking with those matches. So that's going to do us for this week. If you do want to get in those leagues, jump into the Discord, because that's where all the cool people are, like us. I should put in like the sound effect of crickets or something there, because
that or the sad trombone.
Yeah. So in the show notes you'll find all the links for all our stuff. We mentioned it all the time. jpmtgbazaar.com.au. Go and check them out. Buy something and tell Pat that the Beans sent you, so they continue supporting us, so we can keep running these sorts of events. The other way you can support us is by buying some Magic Beans merch, t-shirts, hoodies, all that sort of stuff from the Redbubble store. The link for that, again, is in the show notes. And then you get to look cool as well by wearing sweet Magic Beans logos, or, as we saw, literally having a t-shirt with pictures of us on them, which was really weird. If you want to find the rest of the places we are, just go to magicbeanscast.com. You'll find the links for YouTube, Facebook, Twitch and Twitter, all that sort of stuff there. Or you can just search us up directly on Twitter by looking for Magic Beans Cast. If you'd like to find me on Twitter, I'm at PeaceInc. Chewy, you are?
At ChewyMTG.
And Cracker?
At JoelHill_.
Very good. So that is it for this week. Thank you as always for listening. Stay safe out there, and we will see you all next time.